When Evie was announced, part of the internet complained about the hair and other things, and another part loved her immediately. But almost nobody talked about what actually changed. Eve and Evie aren't the same character redesigned. They're two completely different approaches to building a protagonist, and you can see it in the face, in the posture, in the movement, and in the way they take up space. Of course, I wanted to draw Evie in my own style, and this video is the result of that desire. Late, but I got there. Eve isn't a character who comes to you. She watches you. Her design says everything before she opens her mouth. Long features, neutral expression, a slender body that moves as if weight doesn't exist. She doesn't transmit urgency. She transmits control. There's something calculated about her presence, as if every gesture is measured. Hyung-tae explained that Eve wasn't designed as a character who's aware of her own appeal. She doesn't display it. She doesn't use it as a tool. She simply has it. And that makes her visually colder, but also more mysterious, don't you think? You never know what she's thinking. And that's a big part of where her strength comes from. What interests me most is how she moves. When she dodges, when she turns, when she strikes, everything follows one long, clean curve. Even in the most brutal combat, her body maintains a constant fluidity. No unnecessary roughness, just precision. Eve is distance. Eve is control. Patreon announcement. Before we get to Evie, I want to share something that's coming in about a month. Something I've been turning over in my head for a while now. I'm going to make a comic with you. The idea is simple. You send me your characters, your stories, and I draw them. It's still in progress, but it's happening. And as always on this channel, the protagonists are female. Why? Because it's what I love drawing most. More details soon. For now, if you want to be part of it, keep an eye on this channel and on my Patreon, where I upload material every week. The link is in the description. Share, comment, follow. It helps more than you know. Let's keep going. Evie is almost the opposite movement. Where Eve watches you, Evie faces you head-on. Where Eve keeps her distance, Evie invades your space. Her face is rounder, more expressive, and that completely changes how you read the character. Her face looks designed to show reaction, intensity, emotional life. Let's talk about the hair, the cut, and all the controversy it brought with it. If you look at it carefully, it's not an accident. It's a decision that's consistent with the character they're building. Evie fights up close. Her style is more aggressive, more explosive, more physical. For that kind of action, a more practical design makes sense. Eve had that long side fringe and those tails that worked perfectly for an elegant silhouette. Beautiful, yes. But if your character moves in close, throwing punches with frontal energy and raw force, the design has to respond to that. Kim explained that Evie was built so that her personality, her way of speaking, and her way of fighting are all connected. They didn't build her purely from aesthetics. They built her from an internal logic, where the design supports the character. Her face gives me something more direct, more heat, more impulse. I wouldn't say she looks angry all the time, but she has more reaction, more emotional tension, more presence. And that makes her different from Eve, who was more contained, more distant. If Eve expresses herself through long, elegant lines, Evie expresses herself through short, explosive ones. Same fluidity, different language. Evie is presence. Evie is impact. The comparison? That's why the debate around the announcement stayed on the surface. Most people saw the new look, the new appearance of the protagonist, and focused on details they didn't like. But the most interesting change isn't there. It's in the philosophy of the character. Eve was designed for distance and control. Evie is designed for closeness and intensity. One keeps you watching from the outside. The other pulls you into the scene. That doesn't mean one is better than the other. It means they were built for different purposes. And when a character is well constructed, even if you prefer one over the other, you at least understand why she exists the way she does. And what about Eve? Evie doesn't erase Eve. Eve remains a massive reference point within the franchise. What's happening is that BloodRayne wants to move toward a different energy, less contemplative, more frontal, less distant, more immediate, or at least that's how I read it. Eve responds with elegance. Evie responds with collision. Two different answers to the same question. What should a protagonist in this universe look like? And how should she move? The illustration. When I started writing the script for this video, I only had Evie in mind. But I'd already been making paired illustrations. Even Taki, even Lily, each with their own analysis. So I decided to include Eve alongside Evie, and that idea slowly shaped what this video became. Slow steps, but steady ones. I painted them both in action. Eve with her blade, Evie going in with pure fists. For the background, I used warm colors on Eve's side and cold colors on Evie's, inspired by the game's promotional imagery, but brought into my own style. Evie's white suit absorbs the colors around it, so painting it was considerably more work than Eve's black one. In the speed draw, you can see I wasn't comfortable with the white at first. Eve's face also gave me trouble. I had to rework it at the end because something wasn't clicking. The result? 2 temperatures, 2 philosophies, 1 image. Patreon thanks. Before the closing, as always, thank you to my Patreons. Revometsis, Joy, CamCam, JPC, Patrick Starfish, SNES88, and D8 Garcia. Without your support, none of this would exist. And I mean that from the heart. Closing. Eve and Evie aren't 2 versions of the same mold. They're 2 different designs, built to say different things. And that's what's most interesting. When a protagonist change goes beyond appearance and actually shifts how a character looks, speaks, and fights, you're not watching a redesign. You're watching a new narrative intention. This is a channel where we analyze female characters from manga, anime, and games. Next up, I want to share a manga analysis, or that's the idea. You can leave recommendations in the comments. See you there!
Manos manchadas de tinta.